Hello and welcome back to Supercoach Challenges. My name is Jacob, and today we're going to be looking at, I guess, the game last night, the Friday night game, and probably some of the implications out of that. We might actually look at the Friday night game Thursday night game as well, if I can actually get onto it. I always stuff this up with fan footy, Bulldogs. Yeah, so we should be able to look at that as well. So we're going to have a look at a few things because obviously we're going to look at the team, see if I really changed anything up from the last video with the changes to team lineups, and also just kind of discuss maybe a little bit of planning for next week going forward, and a little bit of the implications out of some of the games that we have seen already, because there has been some big things happen. Well, one big thing, but we'll get onto that later in the video. For now, we'll have a look first at the team. So going into team selection, everyone's pretty much selected. The only real big omission has been Charlie Constable. Now, out of Constable and Chesser, I kind of thought that Constable maybe be able to keep his spot over Chesser, but I guess Gold Coast decided that they weren't really happy with his social efficiency and they wanted, cleaner hands off the back line. Now, I think that if Ben Long does have another bad game, Constable could come straight back in for him. So I'm quite happy to have traded Long to McKenna. McKenna didn't have had his worst game of the year, so that was great. Bringing him in, but he's 50% owned, so having him on the field, I think 97% have him on the field, so it doesn't really hurt too much. 53% owned, I think I was looking at. Oscar Baker had a massive game, which was great because it meant that we weren't forced to trade out Hopper like many others weren't. I don't think we would have traded out Hopper anyway. We probably could have just got away with Cam McKenzie being put on field as well, because I think Hopper's going to make a lot of money. It's kind of a little bit annoying that maybe Baker didn't do as badly, because I think a lot of people would have made that move, because a lot of people have been very reactionary with their trade this year and chasing points because we have so many more trades. And I think that Hopper may have been one that people looked to offload. But it wasn't to be. Baker got a good score. Guess that's good for us. But majority of the Supercoach world would have had Baker and probably emergencyed him. So a bit of a nil or draw there. But we haven't really had any of the potty players played. Now, Zeeble has been a player that a lot of people have been getting in, but as far as I could see, he was still going to be only about 15% owned, which is still quite a decent pod considering how teams are built. So that's going to be interesting going forward. And I think that hopefully Horn Francis and some of these other players can bounce back a little bit. JHF is the showdown, and it's in front of a home crowd. So I think that's going to be quite good for him. And I think that he should be able to score well, hopefully. And otherwise, the other trades we did was bring in Sheasel and Chandler. So Sheasel, and I think this is probably a little bit of a thing for next year when I'm going to run this challenge again because I think I can do better than how it's currently been set up. I think, but at the moment, and I think it's going to be a lot to do with maybe loopholing instead of going with those mid prices on field. So having the mid prices, but having them on the bench instead, and kind of loopholing a little bit more. But that's something for next year when we can kind of set that up. Now, so Sheasel came in. You just couldn't not pick him up. He's going to probably make 200, 300k, and that was worth the trade down as well. Fogarty was going to be out, and Fife is going to be out, so it was worth bringing in Sheasel, and also the same with Chandler. Now I could have kept Fogarty, but I think Chandler can make some money as well, and I think this team is going to be a lot about team value and pushing that team value quickly, because as I said, next week we'll be able to start bringing in players like premium players, and we're probably going to be picking the underperformers and getting rid of them first. And I had a few ideas for where I think it's going to be a Ruck. The choice for that has actually been affected now, so it's going to be interesting to see what I decide to do next week. But we'll wait and see how this round goes, and then we can look more into those trades. But I think a Ruck, just so that we're not having to cover it regularly, I think I'm going to be, I think the premium trade in is going to be Flanders out, unless Flanders gets a mid roll, because that could be a possibility. He's been named on the bench, which I actually think's a good thing for him. If he was named directly in the forward line, I think that would have been more of an issue, but it might mean that maybe they are looking to maybe floating him up through the midfield, maybe on a wing or something like that, because they do have Weller and Day, Power. I always think it's Day, but it's Will Power back. It could be that they're going to do something like that. So that's actually quite a good reason to keep Flanders. And I've actually kept in my actual classic team, mostly because the way my players moved around, it kind of worked a bit better with that way. Yeah. So let's have a look at the team, the results. So the first game of the week, and this man may be one that we have to look at straight away, is Timmy English. So the Bulldogs got over to Brisbane, and Timmy English went absolutely ham. 139 Supercoach points. I mean, the guy is injury prone, which is probably one of the things I would want to. One of the reasons why I would kind of want to watch out for the Bulldogs, but still very good, great score, and he doesn't look like slowing down at any point. Now, the thing about this is, I'll talk about that next, but the thing about Rucks is that there might be some other options that come that for downgrading, which could actually be quite good for most coaches out there, but we'll look into that in a bit. The other thing I don't like about English is him playing for the Bulldogs, although they have got rid of any other ruck option. Like, I don't think Jordan Sweet's going to come in and take much of Tim English's ruck time. So, whereas Stephen Martin did last year. So, I actually think that English is probably one of the safer players to pick from the Bulldogs. And that goes the same with Libba. Libba doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. He's getting the most CBAs. I don't think that's going to change. I think Bevo may have finally realised that playing Libba off the forward line just doesn't work for him at all, and he's just so much better in the middle. I wish he would think the same for McRae, who only got 8 CBAs on the weekend. Went absolutely ham in the second or third. I think it was the second quarter. Just he went absolutely ham, getting disposals, and really, really pumped himself up. And I wish Bevo could see that, like, him playing in the midfield helped to kind of turn it around for him and get ahead of Brisbane and kind of lock him out, because playing him off a forward flank just seems so ridiculous. But Bevo rests on the laurels of his one grand final win. So I actually heard an interesting stat that showed that he had the Dogs haven't actually ever finished top 4 under Bevo, which so it shows that their regular season form isn't always that great, and maybe it could be argued that maybe it was a bit of a robbery. And, like, if you watch that Bulldogs team that won that grand final, it was just ridiculous. They just came into some form, and I don't think anyone could beat them that year. They went to Subi, well, it might have been Subiaco Patterson's at the time. Optus definitely wasn't around. So yeah, Patterson's, and they beat the Eagles in that first week, when 8th, I think, and the Eagles were 5th, and they had a really good team. Like, that team, that West Coast team, I'm pretty sure was the one that hadn't changed much from the one that lost against Hawthorn. And they went on to win a grand final as well. So it's like quite interesting. I can't remember when the West Coast Collingwood game was. Maybe that was 2020. It's 2019. It's 2017, 2018 was Richmond, and then they lost. I don't know, but it's just an unbeatable side, and maybe that was more the case than the actual coaching, but that's here or there. Otherwise, other good contributors like Ed Richards finally playing off a back line, and goes and gets 25 disposals and looks absolutely unreal for them off there. Bailey Dale had a quite good score. I don't know if you could back him yet for every week. It seems like it's going to be one defender who goes bad every week, and this week it was Crozier, who only got a 49. So I don't know how much you can trust it. Even Caleb Daniel only had an 86. and Bond absolutely robbed. VC'd him. And got absolutely punished. I think this game was so much better than last week. But 13 clangers doesn't help. He had 8 clearances, 16 contested possessions. But 5 free kicks or 6 free kicks against don't help. But some of those free kicks are just a load of crap. Like it's like coming out of a stoppage um and clearing the ball and handballing out into space, but like going out. Like he's not looking for the boundary line. He's trying to keep it in, but he doesn't want to get tackled. Otherwise, it's going to be holding the ball. But instead, you handball it forward to try and keep the play running. The Brisbane were trying to slow it down a bit, and he gets punished for it. So, yeah, Bond, 6 free kicks, not helpful. There was also one ball up, center bounce where he ran out, cleared it, and nearly ran for goal, but he missed it. So that wasn't great either. That could have really helped him like get over the 100 mark, but either here or there. Liam Jones, kind of an average game really. I guess he had Danaher, but and I guess 68 does the job. Whether this 68's like really, he had 9 kicks, 1 handball. So there's your kick to handball ratio, which is really good. Only 4 marks. So I guess that he could improve there. And contested possessions were 5, which is pretty big. That's like half his possessions were contested. So, but still like good enough. But you maybe want those 70 to 80s. But yeah, good enough. Crozier was a kind of trading people were thinking about for classic teams, but 49 kind of probably going to turn people off him. Still brings his average to 75-ish. So not the worst, but yeah, I can't really see anyone going to him, especially if Bose goes off again for Geelong. And then probably the only one who was kind of relevant a little bit was Josh Bruce, but had another real average game for him. So probably leave that one there. And then looking over to the Lions, so Harris Andrews had a huge game, mostly off the back of his 16 marks. And not much else to say there. Lockie Neal, bit of a bounce back game, but you want to see a little bit more. Dunkley, he just gets stuck at that 110 mark at the moment. He just can't get past the 110. There isn't those big 150s we want. I think he did have a season where he went 120, 130, but probably still trying to figure out the system a bit. Everyone's got him, so it's not really an issue. But yeah, we want to get those 120, 130s. Probably one of the reasons why I didn't chuck the VC on him, on Pelly, but not sure how much better that was anyway. Going down and looking at the next one. So we've got Oscar McInerney. He played well, but English absolutely destroyed him. Ashcroft had another nice game. 23 disposals. That's great. Gunston actually is an interesting player, but like the 81 doesn't help. But he looked like he was their real lead up forward, and he was getting so like kick straight, 5 goals, probably 100. But I don't know if he'll do that every week. But Gunston being a second or third forward is really, really good for him. And the team that's got guys like Neil and Dunkley, we could see some big scores from Gunston when he gets onto it and has a field day. Otherwise, Darcy Wilmot had quite a good game. For those who've got Constable on field, I think, and your emergency Wilmot with McKenna on field, I think that you could probably take that 69. That's already like for me looking at it in my other team. Liam Jones is probably the guy I don't have, and he got 68, so I'd definitely take the 69 from Wilmot. Barry went into a tagging role a little bit at the end on old Bont. It was probably one of the reasons he slowed down, a bit annoying, but normally Bont works through those and he'll bounce back. They've got some good matchups coming up. And really, the rest of it's kind of a little bit irrelevant. Kitty Coleman only had a 47, so I think you can kind of let go of him. Now, the big one today is to Friday night's game. And it's the big talking point is Darcy Cameron, who was subbed off late, and it turns out he's done a severe MCL. And it looks like he'll be 6 to 8 weeks out. And looking at the trade-ins, I think 30,000 or so teams traded him in, which is pretty crazy. And I think he was in 20% or so, 25% maybe teams. and for them, it's another trade wasted, which is quite good for this team. Because I like one of the ways we are going to be able to catch up is people just wasting trades. I wish he wasn't on 89 because he's still going to make 30k. But can't have everything, and him getting an 89 is probably the best. Jordan De Goey, up and down, and he is up this game, and he played really well. He looked actually really, really good. He was running through the midfield, getting nice handoffs, getting into the forward line. If he kicked goals, like he kicked 0-3, imagine if a couple of them were goals. Like this could have been a big, big game. And then Dacos, but not of the Nick variety, the Josh. Gotten brother had quite a good game. Still side bottom. He was actually getting a lot of the cleanup kicks out from Richmond. They were bombing out and still just seemed to always be there. Not sure if he's really relevant though. He was a great player back in the day, but he's a bit old now. Tom Mitchell, great game from him. If you had him as that low 500s player that you picked, for me it was Anderson, but for many it was Mitchell. You'd be very happy with how he's played, and another 109 is great. Dacos of the Nick variety, he had a great game, but like a lot of these disposals he gets just like a load of crap. Like the bloke sits, like there was one where a Collingwood defender tackled someone and he was on top of that guy, and the guy, the Collingwood defender, got the free kick and he just rolled off and let Dacos take it. It's just like ridiculous. So like, them kicking a point, the other team kicking or Richmond kicking a point, and Dacos being 40 meters out, and Quaynor looking at the ball going, oh yeah, you can come take it. It's just so annoying, but anyway, that's something you just have to deal with Dacos, and it's the reason people pick him, because they see that stuff happen, and he's just going to get the ball a lot. Otherwise, looking down this list, not really much. I mean, like if you were playing Taylor Adams, maybe as a pod, you can probably get rid of him now. Maybe John Noble. I think he was averaging 100 till this week, so you can probably get rid of him as well. And other than that, nothing really in the Collingwood team. For Richmond though, Liam Baker, huge game, and this is where a lot of people would have were probably looking at him as a pod. Because he has shown glimpses of this a lot, but the problem is he's a bit of a Mr. Fix-It for Richmond. And 143, he just was everywhere. He was getting every ball in the back line. They really could, like, Collingwood actually couldn't get a hand on the bloke, and he just kept getting the ball out and was really strong about that. Like 3 clangers off of 32 disposals is really good. And anyone who's playing him as like he's defender forward, so he's got that like swing as well. And anyone who's playing him would be really, really happy with like tonight's score. Nate actually as well, another great pod Ruck. I had a look at his average last night, and over 3 games he's averaging about 119, 120. So if you pick Nate, he's actually one of the better performing Rucks so far, probably just behind English. I think Witts is currently averaging 110 or 115. And he hasn't played yet. And others like Darcy, he's been shocking, especially last week. Marshall had the big game this last week, but low game the week before. So maybe Nank is one that people could look at as a pod. And at the moment, I couldn't say no, because he's just like, he's played good rucks. Like Darcy Cameron is a good ruck. He probably cleaned up in the last quarter a little bit when Cameron went off. And the other games he played was who did Richmond play? They played Carlton. That was a bit of a throwaway because they didn't have Pitnet. They were just playing the Coney. And then last week they played the Crows, which is also Rob, Rob does give quite a few points away, but he's still like a genuine ruck. So Nate could be the one you go next. And I think next week they have, just looking at the lineup for next week, they will be playing the Bulldogs. So English isn't that big contested ruckman like that, likes to really get like fight for taps. So Nate could get quite a few hit outs in that game. Like if we look at Nate tonight, got 39. English got 31, and that's against Omax, so that's actually really good. So maybe it's wrong there, but I still think Nate would like that matchup from a physicality standpoint, and he could go for another big score. Timmy Taranto, if this guy could kick straight, like his disposal efficiency was 55%. If the bloke could kick straight, he would be 150s or 140s every week. But not to be. I mean, he missed one, had a free kick against. But he just gets clearances, and he's a tackling machine. So, great game from Taranto, but most people have him. Boston, great game. Kind of a defender that people could looked at as pod, but I'd say that most passed over him. Shy Bolton, forward line. I think this is his second good game in in the 3 weeks. I think last week was a bit average from him, maybe the week before. So another good game, and could be a little bit of a pod forward. Don't know if I'll go near him again because he always seems to crap it. But actually, his back end of years are actually quite good, I think, because Richmond decided to play him a little bit more mid. So be interesting to see. Otherwise, Dan Rioli, bit of a pod defender, had a bit of a shocker. I think that's because Baker went back there this week and probably took a little bit of his mojo away. So won't be good going forward for Dan, I don't think, if Baker continues to play that position. But I think if Short comes back into the team, it might swap again. So and Baker does kind of get thrown around to where they need him. And I think maybe they were kind of like, let's fight Dacos with Baker a little bit. But yeah. And then going down this, there's not much else. Tom Lynch, I mean, like if he has a good matchup, you can go him because he'll probably kick 10 goals, 8 goals. So, but otherwise, Samson Ryan actually subbed off on a 27. So if you're thinking of bringing him in next week, I think you might want to pass up on it because that late sub. Look, I mean, they might have subbed him just because Cameron was off, and they're like, all right, we don't need 2 ruts. Let's get some running in. Although he only had 35% game time, so does that mean he was injured? No, he's just subbed off. He was subbed off at half time, so that's like not great for him. And I'm not sure you can really trust on that for making money. He could be Ruck coverage for your Ruck, but then why not just play Radaglia and get that? Like last week, he kicked 3 goals, and that's why he got a big score. So, if you can play Radaglia, then you might as well just play Radaglia because I think his job security is a lot better than what Samson Ryan is, although he is $60,000 more. So, yeah. Anyway, that's a little bit of a breakdown of those 2 matches. It was quite a bit longer than I wanted it to be, but that just kind of happens. I tend to ramble on a bit about the players. But it will be interesting to see next week what we can do. Hopefully, we get through this week. Maybe we can get quite a decent score. As I said, I'm VCing Zeeble into Setterfield. Got to keep an eye on that because I may probably make the decision halfway through the North game because it's going to be a very close crossover where Madden's going to become unavailable. Otherwise, it's Setterfield against St Kilda because, it's just a hard captain week. Like I could see some people not getting a good captain score. And if you captain VC'd English, there was I'm in a serious Supercoach group and someone said, should I take the VC on Tim English? And I was like, yeah, you definitely should. 139 points. I'm definitely taking the VC on Timmy English. I don't really care if I'm going to lose. If someone goes 150 and I lose 20 points, then I'll lose 20 points. Like, the other thing is, like, you don't pick him. I was looking at my team and I was like, I don't know who I'm going to captain. I'm going with Wits just because apparently it's going to be wet and Geelong don't look like having a ruck. So Wits could just go absolutely ham. But otherwise, or Darcy could be an option as well against West Coast, but even he's not in really good form. So, and Oliver's got Sydney and Laird could get tagged by Port. So it's like, could be a very low scoring week. But yeah, if you VC'd English, take it and don't look back. If you lose 20 points, you lose 20 points. But it could be a lot worse if you captain someone and they only go 100. Then you lose 100, like 50 points if there's someone scores 150 that you didn't have, or even, well, then you lose 80 points just for not taking English as score. So there's a good example. But otherwise, the team's pretty set now, kind of just waiting for the next games to start. And good luck to everyone over the weekend. Like and subscribe for a follow to, like and subscribe to follow along. 400k challenge, not really done by many, but, bit of a team differential. and like differentiating the team a little bit. I think there'll be some strategies kind of coming out that I'm seeing already, but that'll be for next year. And we're on the road to 50k. I think we're gonna make it. We're gonna do it. It's gonna happen. We're gonna be able to pick pods when we want. That's what we want to see. All right. And sorry, premium pods. So um, anyway, good luck for the weekend. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.